Kearney is one of 3 teenage bullies that terrorize Springfield Elementary. But unlike Jimbo and Dolph, he might not actually be a teenager. Turns out Kearney is much older than his fellow students. You never guess it by just looking at him, he acts just like the other 2. So what's really going on with this guy? Why is there a full-grown adult beating up children at Springfield Elementary? How old is Kearney? Ooh, this has been a topic that folks have been requesting for a long time. And you want to know why I hadn't done it yet? Because frankly, I was afraid of what I'd find when I looked. This is one of those topics that could get very messy very quickly, depending on what the writers have done with him over the years. And with all the random references and jokes, we're bound to get a lot of contradictory information. So let's examine all of his age references, see what patterns emerge, and try to come up with an answer. And then we'll get into all the forbidden Kearney lore and determine how messed up it is. First, let's establish our baselines. Lisa is 8, Bart is 10. Jimbo and Dolph, we don't know for sure. In a Treehouse of Horror, they're referred to as being 13. So for convenience, we're going to put them in the 13 to 14 range, at least 3 years older than Bart. Now it's a matter of figuring out how much older Kearney is than the other 2. This running joke first popped up in Season 7's Lisa the Iconoclast. Principal Skinner makes a reference to America's bicentennial, which, according to him, none of the kids are old enough to remember except Kearney. Kearney replies, "Those tall ships really lifted the nation's spirits after Watergate." For context, this episode aired in 1996. America's bicentennial was in 1976, implying that Kearney is at least 20 years old. Skinner and Kearney's comments imply that he personally remembers 1976, so maybe he is more in the 24 or 25 range at the minimum. However, it's possible that he was just parroting what his parents told him about it. Furthermore, we have some evidence that Kearney is around the same age as Otto. In Season 20, Otto straight up asks Kearney why he's still in elementary school, since they were in the same 3rd grade together. Kearney replies that the school just can't teach him. In a Season 26 music montage, we see Kearney as a kid with his dad. Clearly younger than folks like Homer and Marge, closer to Otto's age instead. He looks a couple years younger than Otto here, to be honest. We don't know Otto's exact age either, but we assume mid-20s, which would put Kearney in the same ballpark. Maybe Otto is 27 and Kearney is 25. Otto's driver's license once said that he was 29, but I am not sure how reliable this is. On the other hand, we do have evidence that contradicts the idea of Kearney being quite that old. In the Springfield connection, Homer gets in trouble with Marge for buying beers for the bullies, implying that Kearney is under 21 and can't buy it himself. You could argue that was Season 6, before the Kearney joke happened. But in Much Ado About Nothing that same year, we get this joke. If Kearney is over 21, then why is he pretending to be Charles Norwood? Apu clearly knows that he's underage. Then again, even Bill and Josh are inconsistent on this point. In the Chili Pepper episode in Season 8, here he is with a beer at Moe's. Maybe Moe was totally okay with serving Mr. Charles Norwood. Actually, that's probably it. We don't have many other alcohol references for Kearney after this. Just Kearney drinking a beer out of a skull in Season 15, in which we don't know how he got it. And in Season 11, they're asking Homer to buy Jack Daniels and smokes. If Kearney can't buy cigarettes, that implies that he's still under 18 in this example. Then again, they're obviously just using Mr. Krusty Eyeballs here, so even this is debatable. We do know that he has to be at least 16, since he has his driver's license. In the Canyonero episode, Kearney is part of Marge's road rage class. Look, Kearney has his own car and everything. We could look to the Flash Forward episodes for some extra clues, but they are not as helpful as you'd think. Since everyone is fully grown, it's harder to judge how much older Secret Service agent Kearney is than President Simpson. Same as when Kearney drives Maggie to the hospital in Holidays of Future Past. We already knew Kearney was much older than Maggie, not especially useful for our means. The best future indicator we get is in Future Drama, where he is the assistant principal at Springfield High. Bart is 18 and about to graduate, and I would guess Kearney is at least 10 years older. That would make him at least 20 in our present day. Then we have Barthood, which provides another glimpse at Bart's senior year. This time, Kearney Jr. appears, who is graduating the same year as Bart in Milhouse. Given that he has a son, and now a grandson, it implies that Kearney is quite a bit older than them. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Kearney has a son. I suppose it's time we finally talk about this. Kearney's son is a mini mystery on its own, and does provide extra uncomfortable context about Kearney's age. We first meet him in Season 8, A Milhouse Divided. Kearney comforts Milhouse, saying, "My divorce was tough on my kid, but he got over it," revealing his son, who chimes in, "I sleep in a drawer." Kearney Jr. looks a bit younger than Bart and Lisa here. I'm guessing he's 5 or 6, maybe a kindergartner. Then again, he is graduating with Bart and Milhouse in the future, so you never know. Maybe he's 10. In his other appearances, he does look to be in this little kid range. Like here he is going to Bart's exhibit, here he is seeing Homer's Cosmic War screening, here he is waving in Town Square and laughing at Homer at Costington's. Oh look, he made it into the Season 34 finale's opening credits with these 700 other characters. If you've ever wanted to see Kearney Jr. and Mona Simpson hanging out, here is your chance. I wonder what these two would talk about. Anyway, we do have conflicting details regarding Kearney Jr., most notably in Season 13's She of Little Faith. Kearney, the responsible adult, is on the church council. He then refers to himself as both a teenager and the parent of a teenager. Okay, we have problems. Lots of problems. First off, this kid ain't a teenager. Unless he takes after his dad and looks way younger than he is, this kid isn't 13. Oh god, maybe he's 13. However, if Kearney is 13, this quote means that the oldest his dad could be is 19. Meaning Kearney was 6 when he was born, and he was conceived prior to that. Nope, nah, nope, just no. You can see why I put this video topic off for a while. It's a funny wordplay joke for Kearney, but oh god, I don't want to think about Kearney's backstory in that way. The implications are all not great. I would much prefer to think that Kearney was joking around right here and his kid is like 5. If you subscribe to the can't buy alcohol theory, it means that he probably fathered Kearney Jr. at the age of 13 to 16. There's also this Season 26 flashback episode that takes place when Bart was 4, putting Jimbo and Dolph at 7 or 8. Kearney appears the same age, but secretly must be at least 12, given the previous evidence. Anyway, Kearney confesses, "This is why I'm so nervous about becoming a dad." Huh. You writers really had this character design deliver this joke, huh? Maybe Kearney is speaking broadly as a meta joke. Maybe his girlfriend is already pregnant. Whole thing is a mess. A mess. This is all your fault, Armin. By the way, we've never even seen Kearney Jr.'s mom or have heard her name, despite what the corporate wiki thinks. This flashback took place 6 years in the past, so it further supports the idea that Kearney Jr. was born 5 or 6 years ago. And not the teenager theory. Get out of here. We've gotten a little more context about the relationship via 2 Christmas episodes. In Kill Gill in Season 18, Kearney is listing off his Christmas wishes. Kearney Jr. reminds him that he's not the real Santa, which causes his dad to break down into tears. Clearly his maturity issues crop up at Christmas, as in Season 31, he wants a monkey, and Jimbo has to remind him how much responsibility it is. Kearney replies, he's raising a kid, so he can raise a monkey. Kearney Jr. shows up and smiles. Clearly Kearney Jr. has a good relationship with his dad, and... Wait a minute. Why doesn't Kearney Jr. have shoes? There's snow on the ground. Get him some shoes, Kearney. You worked in a shoe store, for God's sake. We know little about Kearney's home life in general, other than the fact that he's a divorced single dad. We don't know how he supports his son exactly. I'm guessing he lives with his parents and they're helping him raise their grandson. Then again, he has referred to his own dad as being afraid of child support, and the bullies tease him about his mom's depression. In season 20, Kearney says that his mom moved out in one episode, and in another implies that his parents are in an asylum and a prison. Doesn't sound like a happy home life for Kearney in general. Typically, they play all the Kearney Jr. stuff fairly light and silly, and they do things together, so clearly he's making ends meet in some manner. Hey, maybe that's where all the kids' lunch money is going. It takes a village to raise a child. If things weren't confusing enough already, it's quite possible that this isn't Kearney's only son. So far, he's been a fairly consistent age, aside from that teenager joke. However, we've also seen Kearney with a much younger son, in the baby to toddler range. For example, we have this appearance from Insane Clown Posse in season 12. This might be the same age, the more that I look at it. The model is mostly the same. But he's crawling instead of walking here, so maybe this is a younger version of the same character. However, in season 30, here we are back at the Daddy and Me class with Ol Gil and his maybe granddaughter. Oh, but there's Kearney with his son, also ogling the attractive teacher. This kid is way younger than the Kearney Jr. we have seen around so far. Maybe he does have a second son. Finally, we gotta talk about the weird muscular baby from season 20. In a Maggie B plot, she's hanging out in this playground, and all the other babies are bullying her. This weird muscular baby emerges, and is the most threatening. When Homer tries intervening later, weird muscular baby starts beating him up. Luckily for Homer, Maggie punches him out and saves the day. We don't actually see Kearney drop off weird muscular baby, so we cannot be 100% sure that weird muscular baby is his son. But come on, just look at him. Look at how he's dressed. They're obviously implying that weird muscular baby is his kid. I guess he does kind of look like Kearney Jr. Like, all the Kearneys look basically the same. The only differences are that weird muscular baby is weirder, more muscular, and a baby. We have never seen Kearney with two sons at the same time. Therefore, it's possible the writers are playing fast and loose with the details, where Kearney Jr.'s age can vary wildly, depending on what the episode needs. On the other hand, this kid isn't tapped out as Kearney's other son. That's literally his name. I guess we have to assume that Kearney has two sons. But I wouldn't be shocked if this got deconfirmed someday. I think it's clear at this point that everything about Kearney is hard to nail down. We're not going to get a definitive answer here. The evidence for Kearney's exact age is so contradictory, it's impossible to make everything work. I wish there was a smoking gun, but we have to accept that this falls into the flexible reality territory. Looking at the entire slate of evidence, I think there are two major schools of thought. First, the younger Kearney theory, that he's in the 18 to 20 range, maybe 16 at the youngest. This is the version that isn't old enough to drink and still declares himself a teenager. He had Kearney when he was like 6 years old if you believe him, otherwise he had Kearney Jr. when he was 12 to 16, and then had a second kid like a year ago. Then we have the older Kearney theory, that Kearney is around 24 or 25, 28 at the oldest. This is supported by all the Otto age evidence and would make him old enough to remember the bicentennial, which started this whole mess. If Kearney is 25, that means he had Kearney Jr. at like 19 or 20, and then had his second kid last year. Personally, I would go with 20 as my final answer. It works with all the alcohol stuff, his birth year being exactly 1976 might trigger Skinner's joke, and maybe all the Otto stuff could work if Otto is early 20s and got held back in 3rd grade or whatever. 20 is the closest I can get to making everything work, and even then, you have to cook the books. At the end of the day, the younger you make Kearney, the younger he was when he had Kearney Jr. The older you make him, the more unsettling it is that he goes to Springfield Elementary. I mean, I guess it's unsettling no matter what age you pick. I like how in Bart's New Friend, Chalmers asks why adult Homer is on the playground when Kearney has been bullying kids for years. Once you start looking at him as a full-grown adult, it can make the context of certain appearances weird. We've seen him breaking kids' arms, beating Bart up, that kind of stuff. Obviously, when kids fight each other at school, it's one thing. But we have a 20-year-old man beating up 10-year-olds, and Principal Skinner and Chief Wiggum don't bat an eye. Is this why Kearney was in prison in Realty Bites? Did Springfield finally realize, wait a minute, this is a crime? Personally, I'm impressed that they let Kearney play on that youth hockey team. Clearly Apu takes the if you're not cheating, you're not trying approach. Man, his team was stacked now that I look at it. Anyway, unfortunately, now we have to talk about Kearney's romances and flirting over the years. Thankfully, this will be brief. We do have an example where Kearney may have briefly dated Jimbo's mom, which is another point in the adult column. However, in season 4, Kearney says to Laura Powers, "Hey baby, how about putting a finger in my ear?" No, Kearney, you're an adult. Stop it. Don't hit on Laura, you creepy weirdo. This was before the season 7 joke, to be fair to the writers. The context is just messed up in hindsight. However, in season 33's Lisa's Belly, we have a B-plot with the bullies trying to work out at a gym. And Kearney does get a girlfriend in the end. I'm going to work under the assumption that the writers aren't having Kearney making out with a 13-year-old and will assume that she is a secret adult like him. Otherwise, yikes. Just yikes. Kearney has also supposedly dated Shauna at some point, as we've seen them kiss on the Treehouse of Horror. Shauna has a lot of gross age-related stuff going on, as we've seen this year, so we can add it to the pile. Kearney, you can't be doing this. Find an actual adult to date, like Jimbo's mom. I was afraid of doing this video because this ambiguous dynamic could lead to a lot of super problematic scenes in hindsight. But I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by how much restraint the writers showed with Kearney. I don't know if they consciously were careful with him because of the adult running joke, or if it's a symptom of the bullies being one-dimensional. For romance stuff, they thankfully go with Jimbo instead, having him date girls like Laura Powers and Shauna. It's always going to be incredibly weird that an adult is on the playground giving wedgies, but I think it could have been a lot worse. We mostly dodged a bullet. Mostly. Fundamentally, Kearney's age is one of those character aspects that maybe it's better not to consciously think about when you see him. This joke only gets referenced in like 5% of his appearances, if that. Otherwise, he's portrayed as a teenager just like Jimbo and Dolph. At the same time, we have to be honest that this is Kearney's biggest differentiator as a character. This is his hook. Jimbo takes the lead most of the time, and even Dolph got Boys in the Highlands to himself. Kearney's most major story highlight was probably the conclusion of Lisa the Drama Queen, when he defends Lisa from his friends. That's not very much unique Kearney content. And, for what it's worth, Kearney's running joke is a funny one. It makes absolutely no sense in universe, and this video is a testament to how little it makes sense out of universe. Kearney is indeed an adult, and that's the funniest thing about him. But please, 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 don't think about him that way unless the writers bring it up. And writers, please do keep thinking of Kearney in this way, and not get him into further trouble. Do it for Kearney Jr.